Welcome, everybody. We're live and we're back for another Did You Miss Us edition of How Do You Solve a Problem with Maria and Gareth. And this time it's a special end of year edition. Maria, how are you doing? Everything going well?
Yes. What about you?
Absolutely fantastic. Looking forward to the 12 top research FAQs of Christmas, right, Maria? And we were just fighting just before we came on the episode.
Yes.
Maria says I'm not dressed appropriately. I was saying rude things about her hair color. Sorry about that, Maria.
You're just saying it was purple. I'm very, very upset.
Maybe you can put a comment in the LinkedIn chat, in the LinkedIn feed. What color is Maria's hair? As usual, we're streaming
What
live
color?
on LinkedIn for this event. There's frequently asked questions, end of year, Sidetrain, how do you solve a problem with Maria event? And we haven't got a lot of time, and we've got 12 of our top questions from 2025 that we're going to go through and ask Maria to answer in this event this afternoon. So are you ready, Maria, to answer researchers' questions?
Yes.
Fantastic. What we've done with the help of our dear friend and colleague Scott is we've sorted our top FAQs from 2025. And if you're listening to this live on LinkedIn, you can ask us more questions or provide feedback in the LinkedIn comments under this live feed. Or if you're listening in the future, hello, future Gareth, hello, future Maria, you can put comments in and we'll answer them later. But let's get going. Let's get started. This is FAQ number 1 from 2025. And it's, Maria, how do I choose the right journal for my next research paper?
This is probably one of the questions that gets asked the most from everyone, from researchers studying all kinds of subjects. And we always tell them that you have to consider what your audience is. You have to learn to sell and manage your submission. Submission systems are stuck in the 80s most of the time, so please be patient. Don't give up when you're filling out a very long form, and always aim to your first choice, even if you think that it is impossible to reach. It's good to have that experience.
We really do recommend that. It's a really good idea. You will get rejected going high with your submissions, but it is a really, really good idea. And here are some of the things that researchers look for when selecting a journal, right, Maria?
Yeah, so impact factor basically is a proxy for visibility, for how many people cite your research and how well your research is perceived in the field. So your reputation, the reputation that you gain from citations, is going to be increased the higher you aim. And then within your field, you're going to broaden your reach. So it is very important, especially nowadays, to make your research open access as far as you can, so that you can get researchers from around the world, those that can pay for subscriptions and those that can't, to actually be able to read your papers.
Get in touch with us if you have any questions. We're always here at Sidetrain to help researchers. You can get in touch with us on LinkedIn. Ask us those questions. So that was FAQ number 1. I'm going to try and keep track. Scott has helpfully put numbers on these questions. Thank you very much for that, Scott. Maria, how can I avoid predators or fake journals and conferences? How does that work, Maria?
So there's a lot of journals and that are called fake or predatory. That means that they want your submissions to attract article processing charges. So they want you to pay them, and they tell you that the submission goes through a process that it usually goes through, the free review, the publication, when it actually doesn't. It can be difficult to spot the difference between real and fake journals, because sometimes they will just copy the outline, the content, and the style of the website that you used to. So one of the main ways of checking if the journal is not fake is to go through that checklist to see if the URL is strange to see if the journal is listed in one of the many indexes that you can go through. Look at the editorial board, look at how regularly they published. If the emails go to spam, and if they are full of empty promises, and if you charge full fees, if they charge full fees as submission. Whenever you have article processing charges, you should only be asked to pay whenever the article is actually accepted.
Really good point. Never pay anything until your paper's been peer reviewed and accepted. And check all of those fantastic indexes like our friends at the DWAJ, the Directory of Open Access Journals. That's a great place to start. If you're getting emails from a journal, it's an open access journal and you want to check that it's reputable. That was question 2. Maria, question 3. Why do authors pay APCs while peer reviewers are unpaid? Great question.
It's really, really unfair, but it has to do with how accessible the research is. So there are several open access models, which are the ones where you as a reader can freely access the content and there is no need for a subscription from yourself or institution to access it. But then somebody has to pay for that access and for that. So it's usually the researcher that's submitting the the research that pays, either them, most often their institution or their research grant. And there are several tiers of access. The gold open access, there's immediate access because the funder pays for no embargo. The green open access, where you have self-archiving of a previous version or the institution has subject repositories. Diamond Open Access, there's no cost for authors or readers because institutions or societies are actually funding that publication. And Bronze Open Access is free to read, but there's no formal reuse rights. That means that copyright is limited.
It can
So
be a bit
there's just a
confusing.
matter of property.
Yeah, it can be confusing, right? And again, we're here to help. We've summarized the different open access models here on this slide. This slide gives you some idea of why it's such a great idea to publish your work open access. Basically, if you do publish open access, you get a lot more readership and a lot more citations. So this is a great idea to do if you're a researcher, but there's often a cost involved. Why don't reviewers get paid? I don't know the answer to that, but we hope that we'll be able to change that in the future.
Yes.
Question 4. Dear Maria, how can I publish quickly with a limited budget?
Well, you have to always figure out what you want to say, the structure where how you're going to present your message, and who is going to read it. So, are any international colleagues aware of you and your work? And the best, most effective, fastest way to get this across is using preprint servers. So you can always then move on from preprint to a classical journal, because some classical journals already have acceptance from preprint servers directly.
One of our top tips from all our events, of course, as well, use preprint platforms. They're fantastic. You're going to be protected as a researcher. Creative Commons licenses on your work. Nobody can rip you off. Your work is protected on a preprint platform. And don't forget to write to editors. Write those pre-submission inquiries. Get in touch with editors and ask them if they would be interested in seeing your work in their journal. This is a really great tip. Not enough people do this. You can speed up your publication by getting in touch with editors at the outset, and you can do it in as many journals as you like. You can write to as many editors as you like with those amazing pre-submission inquiries. Maria, question 5. How long does it usually take to publish in a reputable journal, Maria?
Well, this is everything from a couple of months to a couple of years. So if publications promise you that they will publish something within 2, 3, 4 weeks, they are not peer reviewed. That is not enough time. That doesn't even begin to cover the amount of time that most editors will take to get a response from reviewers. So you want it to be as fast as possible. You want the best impact factor for your paper. You want it to have high reach. That's why we always advise you to get early versions into preprint service, and then you aim for what you want.
If it takes longer than about 6 to 8 weeks to get those peer review comments back, you should write to the editor. Don't wait, as we always like to say. Communicate. Get in touch with the editor. Ask if you can get some feedback on your paper. Give them something back. Suggest additional peer reviewers. Potentially, we're already halfway through the top 12 FAQs of the year. If you're listening to us live on LinkedIn, you can get in touch by making a comment under the fantastic Sidetrain LinkedIn feed. But let's move on. FAQ number 6. Maria, what makes a manuscript truly publishable and high impact?
That is whenever you have checked all the boxes and you have accurately told a story. So stories are what stick in your mind. Even scientific papers that tend to be looked at as dry can and will, the best ones will tell a story. They will impact the way you think about something and change your point of view. So the best way to guarantee that you have that impact is to always think about what you're transmitting from the get-go. So from designing the experiments to presenting the experiments to engaging with your audience from an early start, and to reflect and sustain how your work, how that work will then relate to past and present work from yourself.
We spend a lot of time, Maria and I and Scott, talking to researchers all around the world, grammatically correct English, and helping researchers to understand the writing and publishing process. And one of the topics that we talk about a lot is maximizing your impact as a researcher. So talk us through this impact checklist, Maria.
So nowadays it's best because it's possible to place online as many outputs as possible. So preprints, posters, graphics, infographics, talks, whatever you can, submit that, put it in a server, and link people to those outputs. Build a network of people that you want to have access to you, to be aware of your work, and submit for conferences and other speaking engagements, because that on publication you will be able to summarize your work in plain language to broaden the reach, not just for the people that you want to connect with professionally, but also for those that are going to have an impact, that your work is going to have an impact on, and keep the work alive by connecting it to new materials. So get back to yourself and figure out, tell a story of how your current research built from previous research.
When I was a researcher, I never did any of this stuff. So the papers that I published achieved impact kind of organically, osmotically. Nobody really talked about them. I never bothered to do any of this stuff. And it's really great advice, because if you're sharing your work with the world, if you're talking about it during the project, on publication, and on an ongoing basis, you're going to achieve an awful lot more impact with your work. Which brings us to question number 7, a great question. People ask us this all the time. Maria, how do I choose a strong, feasible, and ethical research topic for my next piece of work?
So you need to be aware within your field how to conduct ethical research and how to report ethical research. But most of all, you have to make sure that people that are going to assess your research, that means reviewers and journal editors, think it's relevant, think it's interesting. And before all of that, whenever you're conducting the research, you need to make sure it's feasible. It's great to have a very interesting and novel and exciting question if then you can't test what it is that you're trying to achieve, because there's no technology being technology hasn't achieved that level of sophistication yet. That happened quite a lot to me at one stage. But this is great that you are able to, whilst conducting your research, reporting your research, and then making sure that it gets published, to keep that in the back of your mind, to always go back to it.
It's something that comes with experience as you get more developed as a researcher. And it's very hard at early career stages when you're starting your PhD or working on your master's. If you're left alone and you don't have the support of a research group or a research supervisor, which of course you should have, how to come up with a question that's a good use of your time and energy. So the checklists that we provide, such as this one, the finer research checklist, are worth looking at because they'll help you to focus on a research question that is not just ethical, as Maria said, but is also relevant, novel, interesting, and feasible. So a good use of time and a good use of money. So here's a few things to do before you start, Maria. And of course, we're always here to help. So drop us a line if you'd like more information, or we can help you with your research.
So whenever you're within a subject area, you go through and you start your PhD, for instance, in the Department of Physiology, you have to choose your topic. And your topic could be vessel permeability. Then you need to identify your audience, which is people that are affected by this, like diabetics, and identify your purpose, which is you want to make their life better, you want to cure something, you want to prevent morbidities, you want to do whatever it is. So gather supporting details, design your research in a way that is going to address those questions, and then go step by step in the mindset that you are helping somebody.
That's really important because these days, more and more researchers are motivated or seem to be motivated by outcomes like publications. And that, of course, is important, but it's not the reason that we all got into doing research in the first place. As Maria mentioned, really what you should be doing is coming up with research topics and research ideas and research directions that contribute to people's lives and well-being and the socioeconomic development of the country that you live in and all that great stuff. So this is really, really important. Coming up with great research questions is really, really key. But let's get a bit more into the nitty-gritty, into the weeds. Some of the questions that researchers ask us about specifics. What, Maria, are the core steps of an effective literature review versus a review article?
So literature review is what you usually start out with, because you need to figure out who has done research in the subject area that you want to get into, what they discovered, what's left to find out. So make notes of the key messages of your sources. Always cite them whenever you are writing introductions, whenever you're applying for a grant. You have to cite the work that's been done before. Group the papers together in subjects. If you're writing a PhD, for instance, it's really great to group them in chapters, because you know what kind of best goes with what subject, and what are your results, what do they contribute to this, and ensure that you cite fairly. So even if you like the research of a certain group very, very much, that doesn't mean they're the only ones doing research in that area. So you have to be fair and balanced whenever you're citing your sources, and avoid overly aggressive of negative citation approaches. Even if you think that they were wrong, don't explicitly say they were wrong.
I've done that a few times in my career. Let me tell you. But there's lots of information on these slides. So do have a listen back to this event on LinkedIn Live. Feel free to get in touch with us. We'll send you PDF versions of all of this content as well. If you're citing something and you're writing a literature review or a review paper, make sure you've actually read that particular article. Absolutely key, especially in the age of AI. Lots of AI tools famously are hallucinating references. It's really important that you take responsibility for this as an ethical researcher. You've actually read the papers that you put into your own work. More citations can be better than few. Review papers are especially useful. And we do want to say at this point that, as Maria mentioned, a literature review is something that you would do at the beginning of a research project to get on top of everything that's been written in a particular field, and to help you come up with research gaps, to help you come up with areas where you might go and do additional research. A review paper, however, is something quite different. What's a review paper, Maria?
So this is something that's usually written by invitation. So usually editors at journals will invite a well-regarded research or research group to write a review of the papers in a niche area, and the review paper is not just something that aggregates information. So the authors will give their own point of view, they will give their own notions, and they will point out areas of research that need further development. So that's one of the advantages, is that you can get some ideas of things that you should be doing from the review papers that you read.
We often get asked, can I turn my literature review into a review paper? Usually not. Usually editors, as Maria has just mentioned, will get in touch with you and invite you and your group to write a review paper. So that's a big area of confusion for researchers. Do get in touch with us if we can give you any more information, but let's move swiftly on. Frequently asked question number 9. Number 9, how can I write a strong methodology section, Maria?
So to write a strong methodology section, you need to think about the way that you do research from the very beginning. So you need to figure out why you're doing the things you're doing, and answering because my supervisor told me so is not acceptable. Nobody's going to read that in the paper. So you need to you need to be able to say why this particular method was useful for you to answer that question, and why you use that instead of another one. So that has to do with your research question, how you define it, and how you approach what you're going to test. So you have to give enough detail to be able to repeat this. And there's a link between what you say in the methods section and how you report your results that is much better perceived if you keep the same sequence.
Really common for editors and reviewers to reject papers because they can't understand the methods. They think that you've used the wrong method or an inappropriate or incomplete method. Do show your method section to other researchers, your supervisor, your peers, because this is the bit of an academic paper that really needs to be bulletproofed, waterproofed before submission. Maria, how should my results be presented without duplicating data? FAQ number 10.
So think about how you want the people to view your paper. Most of the time, they will look at the abstract and the figures. So figures are incredibly important, and they should be ordered around primary and secondary outcomes. So if your primary question is, does compound X affect cell Y, then one of your figures should answer that question clearly, and state what you found using words and numbers, and don't duplicate in the text things that you can find in text and tables. Use the text to explain the data that you have in tables and figures. And it is incredibly important to not have interpretations of the data. You can explain your data, but not interpret them in the results. The results are all about the data. So how this information is used and who the intended audience is needs to be considered when you're presenting something. So if you are presenting something for for an audience that's used to Gantt charts, for instance, then you can use a Gantt chart, or else you'll need to explain from the very beginning what a Gantt chart is. It's incredibly important to know what the abbreviations in your field are, and always use units of measurement.
Absolutely, absolutely. We usually recommend that people put like a few key results into each of their papers and build the text of your results section around some key figures. And have a look at what we've presented here on statistics and data presentation, things to consider. We've got lots of other events and recordings. You can have a look at our YouTube playlist. We've got a lot of content on YouTube, also on the sidetrain.com website. But moving swiftly on, Maria, how can I write a strong title and an abstract in question 11?
So be concise and brief. identify the main issue of the paper, use the fewest words as possible, begin with the subject, be accurate, and attract readers. Don't use abbreviations that I won't know what they're about. I can know what DNA is, but I'm not going to know what the blah 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 compound blah 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 is because I'm not used to it and I may want to read the paper. So the title should be very clear what the rest of the article is going to present. And in your abstract, you're going to entice the reader to read more. But it's incredibly important that you answer these 4 questions because that's what most indexing services are going to get the text from your abstract to be able to place your research within the broader context. So why you did a study, what did you do, what did you find, and what you concluded. It's incredibly important that your abstract hits all of these points.
This is the special SciTrain 4-question technique. We love it. We use it all the time. You can use it too, absolutely free of charge. Go on, take it. Answer these 4 questions. You will be able to write an effective abstract for your next paper. Why did you do it? What did you do? What did you find? And what did you conclude? It works absolutely fantastically. Your abstract has to be honest and precise. It's got a standalone, no jargon, short and specific, and very unusual to put references, citations into the abstract. Remember, as Maria said, this is often all that people are going to read. They're going to make decisions about your paper based on the title. Keep it short. The abstract, keep it simple. Follow the 4-question based technique, which brings us, you'll be pleased to hear, I'm sure, to our final FAQ of 2025, Maria's specialist subject. How can I respond effectively to peer review comments received in review, Maria?
So whenever you get review comments, you usually get an email from your editor, from the editor of the journal saying, we've decided something and something, and then they list reviewer comments. So you're going to reply to the editor, but be mindful that that reply could still go to the reviewers that asked you and that assessed your work. So you need to structure this in a way that's easy for them to understand. Remember that they're not getting paid for this. So they're doing this out of the goodness of their own heart. You don't want to annoy them. So structure the comments in a way you'll have a short summary of your assessment and what you found on the comments, what you did to respond to them, and then for each of the comments, whether it's in bullet points or numbers or whatever it is, always write the response right underneath it, and then at the very end, thank reviewers for their effort.
There's a psychology component here, definitely. Reviewers feel that they're doing the work for free. They're being a bit exploited by journals and publishers. You can take advantage of that as an author by profusely thanking them for their time and energy. Maria, thank you so much for all the time and energy you spent working on my paper. That's going to make people feel good. They're more likely then to give your paper a favorable outcome if and when they get it for second review. That has been, amazingly, the top 12 FAQs of 2025, collated by our dear friend Scott McCleary. Thank you, Scott. Designed into a fantastic slide presentation, as always, by the amazing Kasturi Kankonkar. And we will be back, won't we, Maria, in 2026 with more fantastic How Do You Solve a Problem with Maria and Gareth episodes. Maria, any final words?
I get tired just listening to you. It's a lot of energy for a Friday.
Have a great Christmas, everybody. If you're celebrating, Happy New Year if you're celebrating. Take it easy. We'll see you on the other side. Thanks for listening. Follow SciTrain on LinkedIn. Follow me, Gareth, Maria, down below. Get in touch if we can help you with any of your research and publishing questions. Talk to you later.